Hey, welcome back to the Monroe Chamber of Commerce Small Business Stories. I'm Mike Downhour with Quentin Durr from Louisiana Catalyst and Origin Bank.
How's everybody doing today?
It's all good, but we also have Tom Malmay of Tom Malmay and Associates. Tom, talk to us a little bit about, man, I see you everywhere. What are you doing right now?
You know, it's a really busy time, but just real quick, let me tell you how I got to this spot today with you guys. So, you know, we had the 2016 flood. And, you know, we could talk a long time about everything that happened during the flood, the things that happened right after the flood. But what draws the line to this point right here is what happened a few months after the flood when we went into a planning process. There were 6 what we call recovery support functions, but one of them was called natural and cultural resources, which is our museums, galleries, everything art, which is everything, believe it or not, I am not at that point, but something happened to Tom. But anyway, you know, I'll tell you, the story on that is we had finished up a meeting. It was on a Friday evening with a lot of our partners and FEMA representatives. And after that meeting, one of the FEMA representatives said, "Tom, that meeting got a little messy." I said, "Well, sure it did. We were talking about race and poverty. It was going to be a messy meeting," and it was. But we were getting ready to go into our natural and cultural resources. That next morning, I went down to Art Alley. Now, I had just moved back right before the flood. I hadn't been out in years to some of these places. And I really enjoyed telling the story. But I walked down Art Alley, and I walked right up on a mural. And I know you guys have seen it. It says, "Life is messy." And as soon as it did, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So I snapped a picture and sent it my female friends, and they all had the same reaction. So for the rest of the day, I kept thinking about that. What an omen. What to walk up on that after the discussion we had the evening before. Sunday morning, I went back downtown. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And while I was down there, it struck me some work I had done in Mississippi, where I had actually mapped out all the declared disasters by county since 1963. And what presented in that heat map was I started thinking of the blues trails and all the blues artists and all the artists that have come out of Mississippi. Well, then I started thinking about all the artists that came out of Louisiana. And I kept walking and looking, and it just struck me. Was there a correlation between all the adversity of the Southland and the music? Is there something about that adversity that does something to us? And hence, I started doing a little research on art as a coping mechanism. And so when that project ended, Tom didn't stop. And here I am. You know, and the more places I go, the more things I see. And, you know, I'm not talking about just since 1963. I'm not talking about just since COVID. But look what's happening around you right now. Right now. If you had told me 30 years ago that these 100 sculptures of herons would dot the landscape, I'd have said, that's not us. That's Dallas, that's Tulsa, that's not us. If you had told me that we were going to gather in the evening and read poetry, I would have said anywhere but us. If you had told me that we were going to gather on Fridays in downtown West Monroe, have a beverage and hear some good music, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, but not us. Right. Well, it's us. Something has changed. I believe something is changing. And I believe that to be across Northeast Louisiana. There's a lot of media coverage of murals that we see, public art that pops up here. Go to Lake Providence, go to some other places in surrounding towns. It's happening in Northeast Louisiana. Now, for me on the business side, I believe we get enrichment. I believe we get enjoyment. But I believe there's an economic benefit to this. I really do. And you know, you guys, we actively work on bringing Amazon, the big manufacturers here, but we also actively work on supporting downtown. That's right. The destination community, remote workforce. Well, look, everything that takes for that to happen is happening. It's happening right now. Investment is going on. Even with all the inflation, look at the investment that's taking place. Look at people that are putting up their own money. You know, banks that are putting up money. So all the planning Mayor Friday has done, Mayor Mitchell has done, to me, it's paying off. There's a framework to work within. If you're an investor and you see somebody planning, that's a safer investment than somewhere that's not planning. So I say that intentionally because some people roll their eyes when you say you're going to plan. But you want to get in trouble, go at it without a plan. Yeah, you want to waste money, go out with a plan. So the work as of late has been really promoting the arts. But I will tell you this: about 3 years ago, in the midst of all this, I ran across an article, I think it was in Rolling Stone magazine, and it was an article about a Carly Simon performance, and it was actually kind of a dated article when I read it. But I was so taken by the descriptors of her performance and her voice. So how did you write like that? So I found that writer, and I asked some basic questions and got the book. And it took me a while. I had to work at that, and
But you're doing quite well now, because I see your social media
the
posts.
the descriptors, right? The descriptors, and it's sensory language, connecting the five senses to your writing, and so that's really turned into be a pastime. I really enjoy that, and it started out. I go down to Flying Heart to see a performance every Sunday night, but now I'm getting invited to a lot of different places, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that. But I also know that it is helpful to those artists. It is helpful. I get emails all the time from the artists about how they use some of those reviews, so I know that it's helping them. And business, nightclubs, the restaurants. We need them to do well. If you say we're a destination community, they have to do well.
Yeah,
that's what people are coming here to do. Something. How many times has you had a client come in from out of town? They want to go do something. They don't want to sit in the hotel and watch Gunsmoke.
No, right.
They want to go do something. So there are things to do here. There is a lot to do. Now, I haven't been to El Paso, so up the road up here on 165, but I hear they're packed out every weekend. So I plan to make it up there. I missed the Blues Cats last weekend, but I plan to get up there. But this is all business. And look, there's those businesses, and then there's those upstream and downstream from them businesses.
Right.
We need them to do well. We need everybody to do well. So in some small way, in the work that I'm doing here, I hope that I'm trying to promote that a little bit, because I love this place. And listen, I'm well traveled. I've been to a lot of different places in my work the last 10 years. Actually, much longer than that. But anyway, there's something very special going on here. You're not going to find this just anywhere. But it was not always this way, Mike. It was not always this way here.
Well, part of it, we believe, is you look at Monroe Mayor Ellis working with West Monroe Mayor Mitchell, working with Police Jury President Shane Smiley. You see the way the three are working together, and those three entities did not always do that. You see the way the three are working together right now. Good things are happening for the whole area.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I 100% agree. And I tell people all the time that, you know what, we love Dave Norris. He did a good job when he was there. But sometimes change just does that, and it did. It did. This is not the same community. It's just not. And I say that quite a bit. Sometimes change is just needed to change. But we're pretty proud over in West Monroe, which is where I live, and we're pretty proud of the change that we've seen over there. But I spend a lot of time downtown Monroe. I went to Whiskey Row last weekend. Great performance. John Morgan from Oak Grove killed it. You just had to see him. That guy started singing, and everybody was looking around confused.
Is that him?
Yeah, is that really him singing that, And then they all roared in response. I don't know if I've seen a moment quite like that was the other night at Mustang Sally, but it was a good evening. So a lot of change going on.
Yeah, I think the quality of life, people sometimes don't know the importance of that when you start talking about once a destination, like you have tourism and stuff, that people get here and what is there to do, but then the remote work and even keeping and retaining talent. If there's nothing to do or they don't have that, that quality of life, they're going to go elsewhere.
I'm glad you said that. Vita Shell and I have this conversation from time to time. We need the artists to do well. All artists, not just recording artists, but the painters, the sculptors. We need them to do well. Here's why. When they give an interview, what's the first question they're asked? Where are you from? Right? So we need them to do well, and we need them to do well here. You got to travel, go travel. File your taxes here. We want you to stay here.
Well, and that's some of the conversations we've had, is actually encouraging not just recording artists, but artists to run it like a business, to actually set up a business. And so we can not only recognize taxes, but the fact that helps them grow, because once again, if the musicians and the artists are not planning, then their success can be failure? If they're not planning for growth, then what does that look like?
That's a very good point, and I've heard this in some other circles amongst painters and writers, is some artists, it's kind of like going to politics. I'll just be myself and everything will work out just fine, right? No, there's a business side of this.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a little more comfortable around artists talking about monetization. Because some are kind of sensitive when you start talking about if you're going to put a price on my art, you want to keep the lights on, we're going to put a price on your art. Or you're not charging enough. Well, I want to paint for the people. Well, you got to keep the lights on, right?
Right.
So, to your point exactly, in 2024, 2025, that might be something we zero in and bring them in here and talk to them about this, guys. Yeah. There is a business side to what you're doing if this is what you're going to do. You are exactly right, and that was a very good point.
Yeah, and even with social media, we've seen... if an artist would video record them actually doing that painting, they could monetize just the video section off the views if it got enough views. We know people that are making...
Off of YouTube especially.
YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, a lot of these platforms pay. And I know one of them, I think TikTok pays roughly for 1 million views, you get $1,000.
Okay.
So you think about, using those.
You're the wrong business, Tom.
Yeah,
so it's selling art, but also selling and people appreciate the process of creating the art.
It's the influence.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I do. I think that's a very important point in 2024, 2025. It should be on our list, a way to look at that. Because there is a lot happening. I'll tell you, one of the point on this, I was talking to Lee Denny the other night about this. I said, Lee, when we were younger, I said, you go out, you can find a band. Now, there were some good ones, like James Pastel was always awesome, but the sheer number of kids that we're seeing out there that can really play and really sing, like this guy John Morgan from Oak Grove, or something else. Something else. Clara McBroom, Ian Keys. We're just loaded up. Every weekend they're somewhere. And their bookings are increasing. And I tell somebody, I said, when you see somebody getting booked a lot,
Right.
Right?
Right.
So there is a lot happening. There's a lot of people that could benefit from that. But all this goes into this equation of being a destination community, And this thing about the rail, us being connected to Dallas. Amtrak. You know what? It's easy to envision our holiday season around here. We all know how we are, right? People wanting to come here to see what that's all about,
And that's one of the things, too. We just recently did a groundbreaking downtown. It was phase 1 of 3. And what they're doing is they're improving the sidewalks, improving the lighting, improving parking and all of that down there. But they're getting it ready for the Amtrak station. So you can walk from Endom Bridge all the way down to the train station and all the way, through downtown. And these are big projects that they're doing. These aren't little, $300,000 projects. This first one, phase 1, is $6 million. So good things are coming there. And with that train station down there too, it will bring things that we've not had here before.
100%. So, I'll tell you, when we start talking like this, you think about it for a second. These last post-flood, about 2016, look at all the investment in a lot of different infrastructure across the parish, Monroe, West Monroe, across the parish. Shane Smiley, Mayor Mitchell, Mayor Ellis, all the infrastructure investment. Then you take a look at how clean this place is. Now, there'll be some that would want to, Tom, I can go show you this or I can go show you that, but we've never been this clean before. We haven't. Ouachita Green and all their affiliates. It's never been this clean. And you take a look at what's happening in terms of our cultural happenings. We've never seen that before. So all this to me is all coming together. So you have our leaders going after the manufacturers, going after the jobs. Then you have this going on with the destination community developing us there. It's happening all at once. It's all at once, and we're all here to see it, Mike. We're still.
Well, that's one of the things that Friday Ellis talks about. He talks about he doesn't want to be a town with a college. He wants to be a college town because that changes everything, including what there is to do.
That's right.
All right, let's shift gears into business. You've worked with many businesses, and you're able to help out different places. What do you see since 2016 the business environment for specifically Monroe, but all of the area?
You know what? I'm one of those believers that government has a role, but one of their main role is to create the environment for business to kind of organically happen. And it is. Every time I see somebody bump into somebody, we're building this, we're putting money in that. I mean, to me, those are the best indicators you can have. They went and got a loan, they got a tax break, but they still put their name on it. They put their name on it.
Right.
So people are taking risk. Well, you know what? These are smart people. They're not just going to throw money in a hole. I mean, they've thought this out. They see something.
They need a return.
And
they'll get it.
And they'll get it. So that is a great indicator of what's going on. I think we have a really good environment for that kind of thing to happen, and confidence. Even with the price of everything going up, we still are seeing investment here. Still, there's something going on here, Mike. There's just got to be something going on that a lot of these people are seeing to want to invest that way.
Well, and they see the big Amazon and the groundbreaking, and that's great. It is good. But you see pulp mill services and graphic packaging and all of these others, Mid-South Extrusion, also doing big expansions. These places can be anywhere. They choose to be in Monroe. They choose to be in Northeast Louisiana.
Right. Well, you mentioned a couple of industries there, so I'll mention the NELA organization. Now you guys have been involved. I think you interviewed him. Did you interview Matt?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and some of the work that I do, that's a pretty important initiative. So Doretha Bennett down at Workforce is involved with him, and we're all been working together on that. But Matt's got the message on that. If you've heard him talk, he knows. Okay. So Doretha and the rest of us have been very appreciative of Matt. But the workforce, development of the workforce, and if you listen to Matt talk about where he wants to go, that's all part of this equation, is making sure we have a prepared workforce. And I'll tell you, one of the things that, in a number of the conversations that I've been in, is there's some things that my generation don't understand, and I won't catch up to a few things, but that's okay. And I'll tell you, when we were having some of these meetings, we were talking about how to get people in the workforce, how to get them in touch with the training skills, and we were literally talking about going door to door in some places. Now even I would say that, but at the same time I would say, we really got to go knock on the door to give you a job or give you an opportunity. You know what? I'm sure there's a reason for that. I don't know all the reasons, but I do know this. If we don't do something, it's not going to change. So that's some of the conversations, doing things differently. Yeah. So I've told everybody, because I don't totally understand that cannot hold us up. We got to do what we got to do, expand the workforce and break this persistent poverty cycle.
Yeah, Quentin, you have a final question for Tom here and for all the things he's involved in?
Yeah, I would ask, what's next? What's your focus over the next year?
You know what? Hazard mitigation, which is something that has been nonstop since 2016. That goes to, in addition to all these other things that we've talked about going on, and we mentioned infrastructure, but the continued work on reducing future risk, reducing our risk to flooding, and all hazards. My career's been spent right there in that space, and it hasn't stopped. This other stuff's just more stuff to work on. Right. But that's certainly my focus going forward. And think about it. I think we all are of the belief that we're going to do well and we're going to keep growing. But with that growth is going to come responsibility to the environment. Sheila could talk for a long time about that. But our commitment to the environment's got to grow and change too. So as we grow, we want industries and businesses to come here. We're going to work with them. It's going to be okay, but we are going to be responsible for our environment too.
Right.
That's absolutely. Yep. All right. Well, Tom Malmay of Malmay Associates, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this, and appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, guys.
All right. This has been Small Business Stories.